Hey guys, Josh here. I just played 3 of the worst farming simulation games on Steam, and I have to show you how it went. I make it my goal to play every farming game on this channel, and that includes the bad ones. So I have this series where I check out all of the worst games for you, so that you can satisfy your morbid curiosity, all while saving your precious time and money. If you want to help me on this mission, you can leave a like on the video, and if we get to 3000, I will keep going for more. You can also try the hype feature if you have access to that, or if it still exists whenever you're watching this video. And now, let's see what Steam has in store for us. The first game that is calling to me is called Call of Farming. It's been out for a bit over 2 years, and it used to cost something. I cannot find how much, but luckily for us, it is now completely free. That being said, if we do end up craving for more, we can then purchase Call of Farming together, which is the co-op version for 17 Canadian dollars. In this economy, however, I'm going to stick to the free single-player experience. Interestingly, this game is positioning itself as a game for you to create your own farming or simulation game. It includes an inventory, craft, building, growing plants, farm animals, and much more. The description then shows this long list of mechanics and assets, and I can't lie, something feels a bit off, but I've always dreamt of creating my own farming game. Let's do it. Here's the main menu. The game is running at 1300 frames per second. They want to make sure we know it's well optimized. But before I start my adventure, I click on this menu to select my character. There's Robert, and that's it. There is no other character available in the character selection screen. You're forced to play as Robert. I then get to the level selection screen where there's Big Farm, and that's also it. I keep hope that there will be more to unlock later, but for now, like it or not, we'll be playing as Robert on Big Farm. During the loading screen, there's a screenshot of the game, with in the top right corner a logo that says Assault of Doom, with 2 guns, and I'm getting really confused about what I'm supposed to be playing. But then I remember that after all, this is a game about creating your own farming game, so maybe another player made a shooter and called it Assault of Doom. Who knows? For now, here I am on the farm, the big farm. I get to work, I pick up some tulips, and I get into a fist fight with a bee. After a few punches, I come out of the fight victorious. The bee floats for a few seconds, and then disappears without dropping anything. Not only do we have bees, there is already a wide variety of animals on my farm, as well as this chest that contains 10 coins and 3 chicks. I have no idea for how long they were locked inside this chest, but I take the chicks out and I place them on the ground, after which they immediately change color and play a door sound effect. While the chicks are enjoying the fresh air and their newfound freedom, I pick up some seeds and tools from the ground. I now have not 1 but 2 watering cans, and I am ready to farm. It takes me a while to figure out how to equip my hoe, as you don't simply select it in the hotbar and start working. That would be too simple. You have to right-click on it, select Equip, then it goes into the equipment slot, and you have to do that every single time you want to switch tools. I start tilling, and the tilled soil is looking very different. It's also floating above the ground, and at first I was making sure to till on top of where the garden was, but actually it doesn't matter, you can till anywhere, even on top of the roads. I plant some seeds, and just like with the equipment, for every single seed you have to right-click on them in the hotbar, select Sow, and then click on the soil to plant them. I'm starting with a very small garden, but I can already tell farming will be a tedious task, and we are playing a farming sim, so not a great sign. I'm trying to fill up one of my watering cans, so I equip it, and I make my way to this pond where there are 2 shiny spots that keep appearing and disappearing. I try interacting with them for a while, it doesn't seem to be working, so I give up on that for now. And thankfully, the developer thought of everything. My second watering can is already full, so I use that to water my first crops. It doesn't take too long for that one to run out of water, however, and time is ticking. I do love a fast-paced farming game, but it's past 6 PM already and I don't even know where my house is. Big Farm is actually more like a village than a farm. There's a ton of houses, but I can't enter any of them. There are also no villagers, so it feels quite eerie. And to make the atmosphere even spookier, there is some sort of annoying blurry filter all around the edges of the screen. By 9 p.m., I do find my house, but it's not one of the multiple cute vacant houses we just saw. It's a barn. Inside is some equipment, so now I have boots, a hat, there's a bed of course. That's all very nice, but I still don't know how to refill my watering cans. Maybe it's in this river, so I go in, I swim and I swim, but despite my best efforts, the water is not entering my cans. I follow the river until it abruptly transitions into this lake or ocean where I swim a bit more, and now I'm going through cliffs, under the grass. I'm doing a lot of different things, but clearly, that is not how you're refilling the watering cans. It's already day 2, my stamina is down to 0, so I go to bed. It's now day 3, and that's when I finally discover that I can drag and drop my watering cans on the shiny spots in the ponds, and that's how I refill them. Farming games have been around for 30 years now. We know what works and what doesn't, and it's like this one went out of its way to make the controls as convoluted as possible. As I'm watering my crops and questioning my life choices, I'm thinking, wait, was I not supposed to be making my own game here? After playing a bit more, I can confirm that I am not creating anything, I'm just playing, if we can even call it that, but we will get back to this later in the video. For now, I finally meet another human. Human might be a bit of a stretch since they're not moving and I can't even talk to them, but they have this shop where I can trade. Most items I have can be sold for 1 or 2 coins each, and I can also buy a variety of seeds, all priced at 1 coin. The economy is very basic. I buy some apple, cherry, and orange seeds as 1 coin seems like a very good deal for fruit trees, and I also get 20 corn seeds. Sadly, the trees are not much of a good deal after all, as I can't figure out how to plant them. I try with soil, no soil, a 3x3 area of soil, a single square. None of it works. I can plant my corn, however. Having to do it 1 by 1 20 times is even more tedious than I anticipated, and if you ever wondered what planting a corn seed sounds like, here it is. While the corn is growing, I go see what the world has to offer outside of Big Farm. By the way, tools and even clothes like my boots and hat have a durability so they will break eventually, but the blurry border I was talking about earlier is on the very top of the UI before everything else, making some of these numbers very difficult to read. The most important though is that I have my pitchfork to defend myself, and even though I can't really read, I know it's at either 98 or 99%. As I'm walking around, I can't stop thinking about the Assault of Doom. I'm so ready for the game to throw something wildly unexpected at me and to have to fight for my life with my pitchfork, but I am way overestimating what Call of Farming really is. After a few minutes of aimless wandering, I have to come to the sad conclusion that it is the same assets and resources again and again, and the peak of excitement comes when I meet face to face with this bear and defeat it almost as easily as I did the bee. By the way, there is no fighting animation. The movement you're seeing here is just my character walking, trying to get closer as I'm clicking on the bear. My reward for winning this fight, 3 pieces of meat worth 2 coins each. Sure, I could cook with them, but if I ever need to replenish my health or stamina, I can also just sleep. I don't even know why I'm making money. I feel like there's no clear objective or rewarding things to work for, but I could be missing something. So I go for another adventure, this time walking in a different direction. I see a farm in the distance, I head towards it, but as I get closer, I fall off a cliff and on top of these wooden stakes. I can't move, I can't jump, I'm completely stuck. There's no button or option to unstuck my character, but I can try to save and reload. Unfortunately, that doesn't fix my position. The only thing that changed is the background music, and I'm still stuck on top of these wooden stakes. I even go back to the main menu and try reloading from there, but no luck. This is very depressing, but I have to start from the very beginning with a new save, still playing as Robert on the big farm, and at this point, I lost my optimism. I no longer have hope there will ever be other options. I will save you the boring stuff, which is everything. I redo everything, and we're now on that newly discovered farm, where there is a shop selling a horse for 40 coins. I buy it. Initially, I'm not too sure where the horse is, but as I'm rewatching the footage for this video, I can see it's in my inventory. So when I return to my farm, I see a horse standing there, and I think it's the one I just bought, but it turns out I started the game with this horse. In fact, there's every animal type on the farm from the beginning, so that shop I just went to is completely useless. To my surprise, I can actually ride the horse. It is much faster than walking, and I make my way to this lighthouse, where I buy this adorable Santa hat. While I'm there, I also find 3 mushrooms that sell for 66 coins each. Remember that almost everything else sells for either 1 or 2 coins. So just like that, with these few mushrooms, I made farming, hunting, and any other activity you can think of practically obsolete. In search of something to do with all of this money, I see this other shop. Maybe I'll get something to match with my Santa hat. Let's check it out. The only issue is that to get to this shop, I'll have to jump into a ravine, but there are stairs as well as a bridge to come back, so everything should be fine, right? I take a risk and I jump, only to find out that it's another one of these useless animal shops. I get stuck a bit while trying to make my way up the stairs, but I get there. Before crossing the bridge, I quickly check this cave where it's a bit tricky to see what's happening, but I eventually manage to zoom in and see a bit inside, and it doesn't lead anywhere. So there's nothing else to see around here. I go back to the bridge, but something unexpected, there are a few planks missing. I try running over the gap with the horse, but that doesn't work. I also can't jump, so when I try without the horse, it is even less successful. Lastly, I try dismounting the horse right next to the gap, and this lets me get on top of the rope. At that point, I think I'm so close to finding my way out, but no, once I'm on the rope, I can't walk on it or do anything useful. I'm basically stuck in this ravine forever. I walk around for a few more minutes, still hoping for a solution, until I get completely stuck between these 2 rocks. The only thing I can do is to start again from the very beginning, and I'm persistent, so that's what I do. I want to give this game a fair chance, and I've not tried crafting yet. In the bottom left corner is the crafting menu, and that's where I can make new tools and items, such as this workshop station. I have all of the required materials, but as I try placing the workshop station, it's all red and it's not letting me do it. Same thing with the chest. No matter where I try placing it, it simply doesn't work. This barbecue, however, for some reason I can build it. Not too sure what's different, but now I can make a bowl of soup. Not too much luck with crafting, and I think it's finally time to give up on this game. So that was Call of Farming. Very confusing. I was going into it thinking it was gonna let me create my own farming sim, but it's just an extremely bland base of a game with no story, no objective, and simply nothing fun to do. I know it's free, but even then, it's not worth your time, and there's absolutely no way that the paid multiplayer version is any better. So for our next game, don't worry, it's not Call of Farming Together. We have It's a Farmer Thing. Looking at their artwork, we could also say it's an AI thing. According to its description in It's a Farmer Thing, you purchase a peaceful island, raise animals, tend to crops, mine for resources, or pick apples, all without any pressure. Very generic description that doesn't tell us much, and if we scroll down a bit, the developers brag about the fact that it is playable in all languages, as players can, well, translate the language files themselves. Last but not least, there is an AI-generated content disclosure telling us that the achievement images are created by AI. I have a strong suspicion it's a lot more than that, but let's see if this is worth $6.49. Here we are on the title screen, and I can tell we're in for a wild ride. I know there is a lot to take in. Just take a look at these tiny orange trees next to these giant ones. The scale of these 3D models is all over the place. I have a quick look at the settings where I can see controls for vehicles. That's exciting, I know there will be some vehicles. And I notice that both Vehicle Function 4 and Trailer Function 2 are assigned to the same key. So I changed one of them to give the game a chance and avoid running into any issues. Oh, and by the way, the only languages are English and German. When it's time to start a new game, I get to create my character. Well, creating is a bit of a stretch, but that's how they call it. It's more of a selection. There is a plus and a minus button. Arrows would probably have made more sense, but I can choose between this girl, a skeleton, or this boy, and all of them have their arms clipping inside their body. Even better, I can also play as this cat. Not some sort of humanoid cat like you've seen in other farming games, but a real cat that walks on 4 legs. I'm curious to see how that's gonna work, so I go for the cat. First thing that pops up is this tutorial that says First Steps. Hey there, and welcome to your shiny new island. Well, it's not exactly yours yet. You gotta pay off those debts before you can officially call this piece of paradise your own land. To settle your debts, you will need to produce and sell various products. It might be a bit tough at the start, with hardly enough cash to butter your bread. But fear not, you've got choices. You could dive right in and plant a whole field, or start small with a few beds in the greenhouse. You could also jump straight into animal husbandry. Most animals not only provide products to sell, the fruits and veggies you grow depend on your progress or milestones, but the merchants won't buy their products until your progress is high enough. So keep an eye on the merchants for new goods. If you want to delete a building, look for a trash can. To close, press E joystick button 2. That is a lot of information all at once. It sounds like that friend who's super excited to tell you everything about a new game they just found, but not so much like a proper tutorial. After reading all of this, I still don't know what my first steps should be, but I'll figure it out. I can meow, which doesn't produce any sound. I can jump, I can walk, but right away I'm noticing the camera being way too sensitive, so I look into the settings in an attempt to fix it. This is the setting screens. I don't know where this black and white sky is coming from, but there are no options for the camera. I will have to get used to it. On the bright side, there is a button to get unstuck, so when I get stuck, which I know will happen, I won't have to start the whole game over. Okay, now let's see what this farmer thing is all about. Near my field is a bag that I can interact with, and there is a button to plant cabbages. I click on it, and just like that, my field is filled instantly with cabbages. I can't complain that sowing seeds is tedious or clunky. It's all automated. I also can't say that it's any fun, but while the cabbages are growing, let's see what else is on the farm. I recognize this house instantly. It's the same house as in Harvest Days, which you can see in this other video of the worst Switch farming games I played. I played so many of these cheap farming games that I can tell you where most of these assets are from. This house is from the Cinti Polygon farm pack. The interior colors are a choice. It's very green, but it's fine as we'll be spending most of our time outside touching grass. Never mind, I don't know what's happening with the colors in this game, but outside is not looking any better. Of course, I already mentioned the strange trees, but if you look at the grass, you will see that it keeps changing between different tints of green and red. This is quite the visual experience, but I need to remain focused on my work. Here's a rabbit hutch where, in theory, I can buy rabbits, but when I try to do so, it tells me I don't have enough coins without telling me how much I need. And no, the 600 coins in the corner here is not how much they cost. That is what I currently have. I close the menu, try again, and now it says buy 0 rabbits for 0 coins. A bit strange, I press the plus button just to try, but that doesn't do anything. All of this is very confusing, but we're not getting rabbit friends on the farm anytime soon. I'm not completely alone, however. Here is Suzy Storage. Once I have a trailer, Suzy Storage will let me load things on that trailer. Not too useful right now, but this is hinting at the fact that there must be a trailer somewhere. And similarly to the Farming Simulator series, I think we will be using tractors and other vehicles to harvest, transport, and sell crops. But not to plant them, of course. We don't need to do anything for that. Unsure of what to do next in this surreal place, I find this water well from which bubbles are coming out of, and let me read you its description. Our water fountain, where even the water itself jumps for joy to demonstrate how refreshing it is. An oasis of hydration and spontaneous aquatic entertainment. No clue what any of this means. I could buy it for 150,000 coins, but I don't have that kind of money yet. It's also a bit weird how it's for sale even though it's already physically on the farm, but that's not the weirdest thing. Here is me walking inside of a pond, and I found a trailer near the house, but it is missing a vehicle to attach it to. I don't know where to buy a vehicle, and I will need money for it, so let me go to bed and hopefully tomorrow my cabbages will be ready. As I approach the bed, there is this prompt that pops up. Naturally, I think the prompt is to sleep, but no, it just opens and closes the main door that's on the floor below. So I can't sleep and it looks like I have to wait 16 more real-life minutes before my cabbages are ready. As they grow and you watch the grass change from green to red multiple times, I step away from the game to do more enjoyable activities, such as starting a load of laundry and doing the dishes. When I return from my chores, it's time to harvest, but while sowing seeds was instant, harvesting is far from it. I need to press E on the keyboard, and to make sure I don't move or touch anything else until this white cloud of smoke pops up, otherwise the action gets cancelled. However, if I manage to move immediately after the cloud appears, I have about half a second during which I can pick up extra cabbages. Overall, not a very intuitive experience. I also don't even know where or how to sell these cabbages, so before I harvest all of them, I should maybe figure that out. I spent a good 20 minutes walking around my farm in search of something, anything to help me progress, and while I cannot find a vehicle or a merchant, I discover that I walk faster in diagonal. So please excuse me for the awkward camera angle. I will be walking in diagonal a lot going forward. I eventually stumble upon this road, hard to tell where it leads since there is no map, but after walking on it for way too long, I come across this greenhouse where I plant a few more cabbages and I meet some new NPCs. Here's Hugo selling water and dung, and next to him is Brunhilde. Excuse my pronunciation, but we've got bigger problems. Her skin is purple, or maybe it's pink, magenta. Anyway, it looks a lot closer to the grass than any kind of skin color. Brunhilde can buy things from me, such as my cabbage, and I did not even need a trailer. She buys everything I harvested for 2,300 coins. Not far from Brunhilde is another merchant, Egon, who's selling what I've been looking for, vehicles. He has one old car for 5,000 coins, which is out of my budget at the moment. Then there are 7 blank options, which I'm assuming will unlock later on, and 2 more options titled Sold Out for 0 coins. I click on them just for fun. It asks me if I'm sure. I say yes, buy car. Then it says you buyed a vehicle, BUYED. Not too bad for a game that's available in all languages. And as you would expect though from this transaction, there is actually no vehicle. I wonder how much AI contributed to the code, but everything feels very messy. As I try to walk back home, I get lost because, again, there is no map, and the world is way larger than it needs to be. On my way, I see a mysterious portal in the distance, but we will get back to that later. I first get distracted by this walking mushroom with tiny wooden arms, and then I walk right through this crashed UFO. Back on the farm, I harvest the rest of my cabbages, well, most of them, and while doing that, I reach milestone 2. It's not too clear how the milestones work, but I sell my cabbages to Brunhilde, and now Egon has new vehicles for sale. In addition to the old car, there's also a pickup, a tractor, a trailer, and of course, the 2 sold out vehicles for 0 coins that don't work. I go for the cheapest option, the old car, not the pickup truck, but look at that, somehow I got the pickup truck. I open the door, jump into the driver's seat, and either my character model is too small, or it's just gone, but I'm nowhere to be seen. I can drive though, that's the most important, but it doesn't seem to be much faster than running in diagonal. It is painfully slow, so I take a risk and decide to cut through this field, but as soon as I get out of the road, my truck flips over, and this is my view from hell. Honestly, I think it's a lot more fun here, but I have far more things to do, and I should go back up. Thankfully, we have an unstuck button. I knew that would come in handy, and here I am back at the farm. I now have to walk all the way back to my truck. I take a few minutes to get accustomed to the driving. I decide to make my way to that magical portal from earlier, and I get stuck with my truck again. I'm gonna stick to walking from now on, and with all the wacky things we've seen so far, I don't know what I was expecting from this magical portal, but it is just a regular cave. A regular cave where I walk for a whole minute without finding anything at all to interact with, but eventually I get to this room filled with giant crystals. I can interact with the crystals to pick them up. Initially, I'm not sure if it works because they stay there as if I had never picked them up, but thanks to this text here, I know when there is nothing left to harvest. Yes, harvest with no R. I harvest 6 crystals, return to Brunhilde, but I can't even sell them to her yet, as the selection of what she buys expands as you reach more milestones. I find it a bit strange how you can obtain certain items early without being able to sell them, but if you are wondering why, if you have any question at all about this game, it's a farmer thing you wouldn't understand. Before we move on to our last game, one thing we can all understand, it's a YouTube thing, you can leave a like on this video. One like is one wish for Brunhilde to get better. She really needs our help, and while you try that, let me introduce you to Mr. T Survival. Nope, not that Mr. T. What we're talking about here is the initial of this game's developer. Also, before you ask, I did not speed up this trailer. This is the first impression Mr. T wants you to have of his game. The entire Steam page is only 2 paragraphs long, so let's go through it together. Plot: Mr. T Survival is a survival game set in the wild jungle of nature. Players take on the role of Mr. T, a backpacker on his travel journey who encounters an accident that leaves him stranded on a remote and unfamiliar island. With no other options, he must scavenge for anything useful around him to help him survive against the dangers lurking around, and eventually find a way back home. Gameplay: the game belongs to the survival genre to explore the world. You will start from zero to craft, hunt, farm, and fight for survival in the wild jungle. Graphic style in cute 3D chibi cartoon style, the game currently supports up to 10 different languages to be accessible to most gamers in the world. That's it, that's the whole Steam page, and at least this time, we are not being asked to translate the game ourselves. It's also just $1.29. Let's see what kind of surprises this wild jungle of nature has for us. Before I start a new save, I decide to have a look at the credits, which brings me to this screen with the email address of Mr. T. It's my first time seeing a developer do that, but that's not the point. The reason why I'm pointing this out is because the address is HarvestMoon88, again, Harvest with no R. This is purely a coincidence, but not the only thing that's reminding me of everything we've been through today. I start a new game, I die instantly without even having the chance to do anything, but no big deal, I quickly restart. Here's my plane with the cutest, tiniest flame on its propeller. But what I really want to bring your attention to is the UI. The hotbar, the crafting menu, the clock. Doesn't it look a lot like Call of Farming? Even the items you craft and collect are mostly the same, we will get back to that. But one major difference is that, as the name suggests, there are survival elements. So without wasting any time, I pick up some coconuts, a carrot seeds, some stone, and some wood. I do everything by hand for a while, until I discover that I can collect grass to turn into rope, and use that rope to make tools, so I make an axe and start chopping trees. I eat things like mushrooms and apples here and there, but my needs are going down way faster than I can keep up with, and as I am searching for a source of water, I get killed by a bear. It's okay, I'm learning, it's a survival game thing. You get a bit better each time as you figure out how things work. So for this second run, well, third run technically, I prioritize collecting grass to make tools, and I check the map to make sure I stay near a source of water. The map is interesting, here it is. It's just this huge flat land covered in grass, with the same exact pond sprinkled here and there. There are no rivers, no beaches, even though we're supposed to be on an island, it's just the same pond over and over again. And here's the famous pond with the 2 shiny spots, and to drink, I just have to interact with one of these spots. Yes, I have a bit of a head start with some of the controls and mechanics here, as I can use the knowledge I acquired with Call of Farming. I get thirsty very often, but between my sips of water in the ponds, I manage to defeat my first wolf, build a tent, a campfire, I cook a small meal, then I go to bed for my first night. Time fast forwards while I'm sleeping, and after 3 hours, I wake up hungrier and thirstier than ever, so I go for another drink, eat some raw meat, but that is not enough. When I return to bed, my hunger quickly goes back down, and I die in my sleep. I truly underestimated the difficulty of Mr. T's survival. On my next attempt, I make sure to start a garden early. I also make myself a fishing rod, and I have enough food to carry me all the way to day 2. By the way, the propeller is still burning, but besides that, the plane doesn't seem too damaged at all. I could probably extinguish it with water from the pond, but that's not how this game works. I'm getting closer and closer to day 3, but despite all of my experience, I am struggling to survive in this wild jungle of nature. I spot a beehive in a tree, and I think to myself, that should be a good source of food. Plus, I fought bees in the past. I got this. I chop down the tree. It turns out the bees don't mind it at all, but someone else does. As I try to figure out how to take the honey out of the hive, this bear shows up to avenge his brother that Robert killed. He's much tougher than his brother, however, so I run away, but then I see him breaking the beehive to take the honey I worked so hard for. I can't let that happen, so I run back towards the honey. Out of nowhere, this wolf starts chasing me. I get caught between the two animals, and the bear finishes me right as I pick up my little jar of honey. I think this is a sweet place to end it for Mr. T, but a question remains unanswered. What's up with this game looking so similar to Call of Farming? That's when I go back to the Steam page for Call of Farming, and I decide to have a look at the reviews. I scroll down past the 2 positive reviews that are way too generous, and I get to this negative review pointing us in the right direction. I will leave a link if you want to read the whole thing, as well as the response from the developer trying to defend himself, but long story short, these games are asset flips. Call of Farming is using the Farming Engine pack from the Unity store, and this is basically a game template that includes code, sound effects, UI elements, 3D models, all of the assets someone would need as a base to create their own farming game. Having a template can be helpful when you're starting a project, but a quick look at these screenshots tell you that the developer barely bothered to move anything around. In fact, the farm layout in the game is almost identical as the default one that comes with the pack. Now, this is where it gets even more ridiculous. Let's read the description of this Farming Engine package. Farming Engine is a game template to create your own farming or simulation game. It includes an inventory, crafting, building, growing plants, livestock animals, a save system, and much more. Okay, now let's read again the description for Call of Farming. A game for you to create your own farming or farming simulation game. It includes an inventory, craft, building, growing plants, farm animals, and much more. They straight up copied the description from the asset pack, changed a few words, and called it a day. It gets even worse when you scroll down and realize that the list of features is just as blatantly copied, and now it makes sense why the game doesn't make sense. Even though that's how it reads, it is not a game to make your own game. The developer simply did not even care to change the description that was stolen from the game template. This is also why there is not much of an actual game. It's practically only the template. Now, the person who made that template also created one called the Survival Engine, as well as Survival Engine Online, which is most likely what was used for the $17 multiplayer version of Call of Farming. As for Mr. T Survival, it's pretty much the same thing, but at the very least, Mr. T took the time to write their own 2 paragraphs about their game. As I'm connecting all the dots, I recall playing a game called Farm Night Adventures, in a video just like this one, and it was a lot of the same assets. There are actually dozens of these games, and just from looking at them quickly, you would think that no one would buy them except for me because I know they will be making for a fun video. But the problem is, they do have reviews of real players who bought them, and on a platform like Steam, at least they can get a refund. But if you are on the Nintendo eShop, that is not an option, or at least not an easily actionable one. Asset flips are of course nothing new, but it still baffles me how some people really have no shame. As to why Call of Farming had that screenshot where it said Assault of Doom, honestly I'm still quite confused, but I found this other game called Slendytubbies Assault of Doom, a first-person shooter where you shoot Teletubbies. That is a whole other rabbit hole way outside the scope of this video, but the logo is the same, and I hope this brings more closure than questions. Anyway, that's pretty much it. These are the 3 games that I played today. If I had to rank them, It's a Farmer thing would be first, because I guess you can play as a cat and it is unique. Second would be Mr. T Survival, since there was a goal of surviving and leaving the island. Then in third position, Call of Farming, because yes, it's free, but it's also free of content. Let me know what you think of these games, if you've played them, or if there are other bad farming games you'd like me to try so you don't have to. Leave a like on the video if you would like me to make more like this one. And if you don't want to wait, there is a whole playlist you can watch right now. You can also subscribe if you'd like, and I'll see you all in the next video.